Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Tomas covers, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, GregUnchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I am your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Sunday. You know what that means. It's time for All The Wrest. That's rest with a W, short for wrestling. This is the episode of the B Plus Podcast each week where I sit down and break down everything that happened on wrestling TV this week that I watched that didn't fit into one of our other podcasts. So on Fridays, we do Aussie Graps. On Saturdays, we do WWE Universe. On Mondays, we do Impact Zone, which of course is Impact. And on Wednesdays, we do the King of Sports Universe. Now, the King of Sports Universe has actually expanded. Originally, our King of Sports cast was just covering New Japan Pro Wrestling, but now we've started to talk about all the other promotions that are affiliated with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So at the moment, that means Ring of Honor slots into the King of Sports Universe podcast. So, if you are tuning in to hear what happened on Ring of Honor TV this week, you're going to have to rewind back through the archives to Wednesday and have a quick listen to King of Sports cast where we talk about New Japan, we talk about Ring of Honor, we talk about CMLL, and we talk about Rev Pro. So with all that said, what do we talk about here on Sundays All The Rest? We talk about all the news that happened in the world of wrestling that we haven't covered on other shows. Sometimes we cover things twice and we cover it here as well as on the other shows. And I'm going to talk to you about Lucha Underground and MLW Fusion, which this week featured a War Games match. So, let's jump straight in and take a look at MLW Fusion. Now, if you haven't been watching MLW Fusion, I highly recommend it. It's done very much in the style of the way wrestling shows were presented back in the 80s. You get lots of, like, the little promo clips, and, I don't know, just the feel of it. It feels very old school and very pro wrestling. It doesn't feel like sports entertainment. It feels like pro wrestling, and it's very entertaining anyway, because wrestling is entertaining. When you don't try to be sports entertainment and you just let wrestling be wrestling, it tends to be pretty sports entertaining. I don't know what the whole deal is, but MLW Fusion this week, it started with a promo from each team kicking off the show before we go to the credits. The teams for the War Games match were the Death Machines and Sami Callihan, with Jimmy Havoc and Abyss taking on Shane Strickland, Cotto Brazil, Barrington Hughes, Tommy Dreamer, and John Hennigan. So it's a pretty stacked lineup. We get a promo from each team, and each guy has a bit of a say. Then we see an earlier today with Low Key arriving at the arena and being interviewed by, when they do that spot where you arrive to the arena and there's all the people standing around with their phones asking you questions, like I guess they're from 411 and all the different wrestling news sites, and they're there to interview you as you show up to the show. They did that whole spot. Low Key shows up, and then as he enters the locker room, he bumps into Tommy Dreamer. Now, these two have a bit of a history at the moment. They have a bit of a rivalry, and it looks like we're going to get some more with that soon. We then get a promo from Teddy Hart and Brian Pillman. They recently attacked Kevin Sullivan. I talked about this last week on the show. They attacked Kevin Sullivan. Brian Pillman is officially heel now. He's cutting ties with Kevin Sullivan and really aligning himself to the New Hart Foundation. And this promo kind of made no sense, but it was still fantastic. It felt, like I said, feels very old school, very 80s, 90s, very late 80s, early 90s, and, Teddy Hart's Canadian accent, and he sounds just like Brett, and and Brian Pillman does his thing, and they just talk about their legacy and about being vilified, but how the New Heart Foundation don't care, and they're going to take over MLW, and they're not going to get in trouble for what they did because they're above all that. And it's pretty cool. Then you get a PCO promo. PCO, of course, playing the whole Frankenstein gimmick. It's reborn! And so PCO does his little thing. It's like a quick 30-second promo. And then it's War Games time. So it was just promo, War Games, because a War Games match takes a while. So Cotto Brazil and Fulton start the match in high gear, with Cotto diving out of the cage, tackling Fulton through a table. John Hennigan comes in next, Jimmy Havoc. Then Shane Strickland comes out for his involvement in the match, but Sami Callihan jumps him from behind, beats him down, throws him off the stage through a table, then picks him up, powerbombs him through another table, and then he needs medical attention. So Shane Strickland gets taken out of the match, and Sami Callihan jumps in the ring, taking his spot, meaning that, two people from that team have come out in a row. Then Tommy Dreamer comes out, and he brings a garbage can full of hardware, and the match starts to get really hardcore. They start beating each other up with weapons. Leon Scott joins, Barrington Hughes joins, Abyss joins, and that's everyone. We're getting a 5-on-4 match here because Shane Strickland has ostensibly been taken out, and he doesn't actually return for the rest of the match. It's a 5-on-4 situation. Everyone's fighting, and Cotto jumps off the top of the cage and takes down everyone, and then ultimately Barrington Hughes gets the win for his team when he wraps himself in barbed wire. This is brutal. He wraps himself in barbed wire and hits a splash on Leon Scott. Then he and Cotto Brazil, they wrap the barbed wire around Leon Scott's head and pull back, and you can see the barbed wire just digging into his forehead, and they pull back and he taps out and they get the win. Then after the match, Sami Callihan, I guess, blamed Jimmy Havoc for some reason, even though Jimmy Havoc wasn't involved in the finish, and Jimmy Havoc kind of did his part, but, it is what it is. Sami Callihan just starts slapping Jimmy Havoc around. They get into a bit of an argument, and they're going to set up a match, obviously, for the New York event that's coming up. As far as War Games matches go, this was kind of underwhelming. It wasn't a great match, but it was still entertaining, and the barbed wire spot was amazing. I love watching a dude a big dude too, like Barrington Hughes, just wrap himself in barbed wire and jump on another dude. Like, that's insane. So I'd say I would say it's a watch worthy show, but I wouldn't be going out of my way to watch this show. But if you got 40 minutes to kill, it's worth having a look into. Next week on MLW, we are going to have MJF of All In fame, of course, and Aria Blake take on Joey Ryan and Taya Valkyrie in a mixed tag match, and we're going to get PCO versus Big Man Brody King. We don't know how much longer Brody King's going to be around on the indies, so that one's definitely worth tuning in for. But that does it for MLW Fusion. It was pretty much just the War Games match and a bunch of promos. I really like the way they lay out their shows. It definitely feels old school, and if you're a fan of that kind of thing, it's worth watching. Especially with Tony Schiavone calling the action, it definitely feels old school as well. And then we move on to Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground this week. Wow. Just wow. What a week it was in Lucha Underground. We knew going in that this week was going to be huge. We get two title matches just on free. This is on TV, man. This isn't a pay-per-view. Lucha Underground don't do pay-per-views. This is just on TV. And the announcers said that too. We're going to give you all these great matches. And they had 2 title matches. A Gift of the Gods Championship, where El Dragon Azteca Jr., the fighting champion that he is defending against Marty the Moth, who basically, shouldn't be a contender because he's kind of a frickin' loser, but he paid his way into the title match with Antonio Cueto last week. He also paid for something else, and we know what that was, but we'll find out later. We also get a Pentagon Dark title defense when he defends in a triple threat against Mil Muertes and King Cuerno for the Lucha Underground Championship. So let's start at the beginning of the show, following on from last week where Fenix has started to go a bit dark since he's been brought back and he's a man out of time, and he has that dark streak. He's wearing the black gear. His entire demeanor has changed, and he has a match this week against Aerostar. Of course, at the end of last week, he turned on Aerostar and Drago and also Melissa Santos. And so the question was, what's going on? And this week he has a match with Aerostar to sort of sort through those issues. And Fenix is absolutely brutal as a heel. Like I said, his entire demeanor has changed. He's wearing the black. It's really fun to watch his stiff kicks and just the way he's changed his style to just be slower and harder. He hits everything he hits with more intensity. Really fun to watch. I didn't even know Fenix needed this. I didn't know that I was bored with Fenix in Lucha Underground until he started doing this, and I'm like, oh wow, I was bored with Fenix in Lucha Underground, and now I'm not. This is really exciting, and he's killing it as a heel, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here. Fenix ends up getting the win with his new Black Fire driver, which is the muscle buster spinning around into a driver. Really good stuff. Melissa Santos announces him as the winner, and then she sort of puts down the mic and like begs him, stop, because he continues to attack Aerostar after the match. And she's telling him, this isn't you, we need to get you help. He charges at her again, like he did last week. But this time, El Dragon Azteca Jr. comes out before she gets knocked down to help her out. So Fenix just beats the shit out of El Dragon Azteca Jr. Just beating the crap out of him, picks him up, hits that Black Fire driver onto the floor at ringside. And then Antonio Cueto comes out and says, look, obviously you can't compete, El Dragon Azteca Jr., so I'm going to have to call off your match tonight and call it a forfeit and hand over the Gift of the Gods Championship to Marty the Moth. El Dragon Azteca Jr. stands up and he's like, no, I can fight, bring it on, let's do the match. So Antonio Cueto's like, alright, we'll have the match now then. Out comes Marty the Moth, and you assume what's going to happen here is El Dragon Azteca Jr. is going to overcome the odds. He's the fighting champion, he's the babyface, he's been a bit weird with the way he's been winning his matches lately, but he is technically still the underdog babyface champion, fighting spirit, get at it. And so you assume he's going to, even though he's just had a pre-match beatdown and he's worst for wear and all of that sort of stuff, you kind of assume he's just going to overcome the odds and win, because this is Marty the Moth. You know, Marty the Moth is pretty much a loser. He's not any good, to be honest with you. He's just not any good. He's never done anything for me, and he's been portrayed as a bit of a loser, so that's the way we've been trained to view him. He is a loser. And he wins. He wins. I mean, obviously it's not completely clean, because El Dragon Azteca Jr. was beat down by Fenix before the match, but he wins with the underhook lift up DDT. There was no foul play or anything. It was a clean win on an already beaten down El Dragon Azteca Jr., and he wins the Gift of the Gods Championship. So, wow, like very unexpected. Then we get a cutscene with Paul London visiting the White Rabbit. Finally, I've been complaining about this a little bit. I'm not one to complain much about Lucha Underground, but I have been a bit frustrated with their treatment of the Rabbit Tribe. And then I see a Rabbit Tribe sequence, and I'm like, finally, we're getting something to do with the Rabbit Tribe. I want these guys to get a push. I want them to go for the 6-man titles. So, let's see what happens here. For some reason, the White Rabbit's wearing black now. I don't know, is he a Black Rabbit now? They never said anything. Was it, you know, they found the White Rabbit, and then because they had to kill the man, he becomes the Black Rabbit? I have no idea, but he's wearing black now for some reason. It's Killer Cross, for those who don't know, from Impact and AAA, and he's fantastic, and I'm really excited to see what he does. Ultimately, Paul London's visiting him and says, you know, Mala Suerte insulted or failed the tribe, so he sacrificed them. And then the White Rabbit says that he and Little Bunny have been getting stir-crazy. Little Bunny, I think, might be Mascarita Sagrada in just a different outfit. But anyway, Killer Cross, a.k.a. the White Rabbit, a.k.a. maybe the Black Rabbit, he says that he and Little Bunny, which I think is Mascarita Sagrada, are getting stir-crazy. And they want Paul London to show them the way to the temple. And Paul London says, sure, follow me. So it looks like we're going to get the White Rabbit, Black Rabbit, we're going to get the Little Bunny, and we're going to get Paul London as a trio. And hopefully they will go after the trio's titles. Very exciting development. It's about time something happened there, because I'm sick of them booking the Rabbit Tribe like a joke. And then it's time for the main event really early. So it's like, oh, we're going to get a really long main event here. Mil Muertes versus King Cuerno versus Pentagon Dark for the Lucha Underground Championship. It's kind of a short match, which is surprising. It's like, wait, shouldn't this be the main event? What's going on here? They must have a really big cutscene planned. Pentagon Dark retains and hits the package pile driver, the Fear Factor, and gets the win over King Cuerno. Clean match. After the match, Marty the Moth attacks, beats the crap out of Pentagon. We're like, okay, so he's going to cash in next week. Because the thing with the Gift of the Gods Championship is, it's not like Money in the Bank where you can just cash it in and get a title shot whenever. You have to cash it in with a week's notice. So you come out, you announce your intentions, and then they have a week to promote the match, and then the next week, because Dario Cueto's thing was, I'm a promoter, right? So he needs a week to promote the match. Antonio Cueto comes out and says that Dario's rule is a stupid rule. And Marty made a very convincing argument against the rule. That's what that fat stack of cash was. And so Antonio Cueto says that from now on, in his Lucha Underground, in his temple, you can cash in your Gift of the Gods Championship for a title shot at any time. He asks Marty the Moth if he wants to cash in. Marty the Moth agrees, of course, and he goes for the pin immediately, but Pentagon kicks out. He continues the assault, but Pentagon keeps kicking out, and once again, just like earlier in the night with El Dragon Azteca Jr., you think, okay, He's already worse for wear, but he's going to overcome and be the fighting champion, and he doesn't. Marty the Moth is the new Lucha Underground champion. Who saw that coming? Absolutely no one. I avoid spoilers, and if you told me last week, oh, Marty the Moth is going to win the Lucha Underground Championship next week, I'd tell you you're absolutely crazy. Anyone who put money on this is a rich man now. Like, this is insane. Marty the Moth is a loser. And here's the twist. He got the win because he sort of rolled out when Pentagon finally fired up for a comeback. He rolled out and he was like feigning injury, so the referee was checking on him. And then out from under the ring comes, I guess, who we're calling Marty's new girlfriend, because after the match they were like hugging and getting all close in the middle of the ring. It's Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green has made her Lucha Underground debut. We don't know what her name's going to be, but she looks like she's very closely aligned with Marty the Moth. And she hit the Destroyer on Pentagon Dark, and then Marty gets back in, hits that DDT, and gets the win, becomes the champion. Holy crap. What a shocking turn of events. Definitely worth watching, even though I've spoiled it for you now. Lucha Underground this week was shocking, completely shocking, definitely unexpected, and well worth a watch. Quick note, obviously there was one cutscene here, I think we really could have done with some more cutscenes. Overall, I don't know if their budget's been cut or what's going on, but there have not been enough cutscenes this season. We have not had enough story progression with the overall story with the gods and the situation with the people that are using the temple and the manipulations of all of that, like the cult kind of overtones that are there with the Quedos and what's their actual motivation. We haven't had any of that stuff this season, which is kind of bumming me out. Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm a big comic book guy, I'm a big sci-fi guy, big fantasy guy, and it was those things that really attracted me to Lucha Underground. Now, I'm still digging it, I'm still enjoying the show, but I really want some more of that high strangeness. You know, they tease it every now and then. Like, I mean, look, Aerostar bringing Fenix back to life by absorbing the soul from Katrina, who had absorbed the soul from him just moments ago. Like, that whole thing was fantastic. I enjoy all that kind of stuff, but I want more. I want more cutscenes. You know, they've just been going a bit light on it this season, and I really want to see them return to that high fantasy, high strangeness kind of stuff. But that does it for this week's TV. Now, before we get into the news, I want to do something new, because some of the news that I spoke about in the last couple of weeks has turned out to be completely wrong. So let's look at some fake news.
You are fake news.
So last week we talked about Vince McMahon meeting with Madison Square Garden officials, and we speculated what that could be about. Could he be trying to stop the Ring of Honor New Japan show? No, he didn't have a meeting with Madison Square Garden officials. We don't know where this report came from, but it was circulating on all of the dirt sheets, so everyone was talking about it. And it turns out it was complete bullcrap. So when PW Insider reached out to Madison Square Garden to see what this was all about, they said, we haven't had a meeting with Vince McMahon. We haven't... Like, if we have meetings, it's not with Vince McMahon, it's with the events team, and we haven't had any meetings. No one can cancel this Ring of Honor Madison Square Garden show. They have a contract, and they've sold out the arena. It's going ahead. This is completely fake news. So, you know, we're going to get a fake news on that one. It's not true.
You are fake news.
I also talked about Ric Flair getting married to longtime girlfriend Wendy Barlow.
Very fake news.
Turns out it was not a marriage as initially reported, but a commitment ceremony. So, you know, same, but these things are important, I suppose. You know, a marriage comes with a prenup, a commitment ceremony maybe doesn't. I'm not too sure, but, you know, he didn't get married, he just got committed. Because there's a difference, I suppose. Now let's take a look at this week in wrestling news. Top of the ballot, biggest news story this week has to be WWE are returning to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for WWE Crown Jewel November 2nd. They're doing a Saudi World Cup. They've got, you know, all the nostalgia acts to get the prince's rocks off. Seriously, this pisses me off. If you want to hear my rant about this, just go back to yesterday's show, The View from the WWE Universe. Me and CJ sit down and talk about it. We're angry about it for very different reasons. CJ seems to be more angry at Brock Lesnar. I don't really care about that. You know, the Brock Lesnar stuff's fine with me. I enjoy Brock Lesnar as a special attraction. But my My thing comes from the politics of it, which, this is a wrestling podcast. We don't want to go too much into politics, but I believe in freedom, and Saudi Arabia is very much not free, and I understand the argument that WWE want to be involved with the culture so they can change the culture, but I don't see them pushing back at all. What I see them doing is taking a bunch of money from the Saudis to sort of give the prince his little enjoyment show. Like, it's everything he wants. He wanted Yokozuna, so he got the fat sumo guy. He wants DX and Kane, and he wants DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, and so a bunch of people are coming out of retirement just to give him this match that he wants, and they're getting paid 7 figures. Brock Lesnar is going to be paid 7 figures to go for this one night, and he's getting paid 7 figures. We talked about it on The View from the WWE Universe. So if you want to hear our thoughts, go back and have a listen to that show, because we go into it in depth there, and I have the whole rant. Let us know. Make sure you let us know in the comments. Make sure you send us an email, the b+@unchained.media. Send us an email. Let us know if you think we should be covering the Saudi Arabia show, or if you think we should just go silent on it, because I'm kind of torn, and I understand both sides, and honestly, I'd like the extra couple of hours to myself, but I don't know. I'm so torn on this, and I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys feel about this. How do you feel about the whole Saudi Arabia situation? Moving on, when it comes to WWE show announcements, they also announced Starrcade in Cincinnati. That's on Thanksgiving weekend. At this point, it hasn't been announced as a network special. Much like last year, it was just sort of a super house show, which is good, because it gives us one less thing to follow. We talked about this on The View from the WWE Universe. There's so much to follow at the moment, it's ridiculous. All the shows overlapping and the build, like we're building for shows that come after the show that's coming first, and we're not even paying attention to that, and then the stories are coming after the match announcements, and it's all a big clusterfuck, and it makes no sense. So adding another show to that would really, really upset me. But Starrcade, Cincinnati, Thanksgiving weekend, it looks like it's just going to be a super house show, which is good. It basically contains, according to the card so far, which obviously is subject to change, basically contains all the same matches as Super Showdown. You got Shields versus Dogs of War, New Day versus The Bar, AJ versus Joe. Elias is doing a performance with Ric Flair, though. Hopefully they do like an acoustic rendition of Ric Flair Drip. I think that would be really entertaining. But they are just repeating the same stories. So I don't know. Card's subject to change, so it may change completely by the time the show actually rolls around. But it looks like the stories that we've had for the last month or two, that we had going into Hell in a Cell, that we have going into Super Showdown, it looks like these stories are going to continue for the foreseeable future, because this is in Thanksgiving, for those who don't know, is at the end of November. So we're talking about stories that have started in August are going to still be around in the end of November. That's a pretty sad sign, but this is WWE, and what they do is they tread water for months at a time until it's time for the big show, and then they kick it into high gear with some stories for a month, and then they tread water again. So it's kind of becoming a pattern, and it's kind of depressing, but it is what it is. Something else we talked about last night, Alexa Bliss was injured, and, well, they're playing it up as an injury. We're not sure if it's kayfabe or if it's a shoot, if she's actually injured, but apparently something's gone wrong with her arm. Could be a work based on the Ronda Rousey armbar, but either way, she has been removed from the Mixed Match Challenge and replaced by Ember Moon. Today, the news broke as well that Sasha Banks has been injured. No word on what the injury is, but we do know that her status for Evolution is uncertain, which is really a bummer. I really wanted her and Bayley to have a high-profile spot in Evolution. I was hoping there'd be a tag title announcement, but that would have had to have been announced by now if it was happening, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but it looks like she may not even be able to attend Evolution, which is pretty bummy. I really hope she's okay. Get well soon, Sasha Banks, but she has also been pulled from the Mixed Match Challenge. She has been replaced by Mickie James. So no word yet on what the team name's going to be, because they were legit dominants, which was Sasha Banks and Bobby Lashley, but now we've got Mickie James and Bobby Lashley, so we'll see how that one goes. In other news, this is very exciting for me, Lio Rush, the man of the hour, the 23-year-old piece of gold, looks like money, smells like money, way better than Noam Dar. He dropped a diss track, just like Eminem at MGK. Yeah, he even, ripped off the artwork, but he dropped a diss rap about Noam Dar on Twitter. Very exciting. It was, at the beginning of the week, so you'd have to scroll back through 6 days of Twitter to find it. But if you can go to Lio Rush's Twitter, I'll try to drop a link, but I can't guarantee it. Lio Rush dropped a diss rap video about Noam Dar. Definitely worth checking out. We also have, of course, WWE and Impact officials had a secret meeting. Ooh, secret meeting. Apparently Scott D'Amore was there, and Triple H's team, he met with Triple H's team, and word is there's been conflicting reports that like nothing came out of it. Then there was other reports that it was about the tape library. Then there were other reports that it's about Impact holding live events on the network, which, if that's the case, that is huge. Could you imagine if Impact took Impact off Pop? Because they're getting terrible ratings anyway. Imagine if they took Impact off Pop, if WWE paid them for Impact to air live on the network. I mean, it would save me money, wouldn't need GWN anymore, which is probably a bad thing for Impact's bottom line. But who knows, if WWE pay enough, maybe that we'll get Impact on the network. I'm really curious to see what comes of this. There are other reports that nothing is coming of this. There are reports that it was just a general meeting. There's all sorts of things swirling around. We're going to speculate wildly on the Impact Zone podcast tomorrow, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll get a notification, depending on your podcast player. Turn on the notifications too, and then you'll know when we have the Impact Zone podcast up. It generally comes out on Monday mornings. We'll be talking all about this week's Impact and this meeting. We'll speculate wildly, I guarantee it. WWE have also announced their first ever Latin American talent tryout in Chile. So they're going down to South America. They're going to bring in all the athletes, all the lucha wrestlers. They're going to bring in everyone for a tryout, and they're going to... I really like the world expansion, the world feel that we're getting from WWE lately. I think Impact are doing it really well as well. The whole, Impact recently went to Mexico for tapings, and you're seeing things like Fabi Apache versus Tessa Blanchard, which is really interesting, that global flair. With the internet making the world smaller, it was only a matter of time before this stuff kind of started happening. And, WWE are just a little bit slower about it all, right? So they've got to set up their whole NXT situation, and we've got an NXT coming to UK. We assume there's going to be an NXT in Japan eventually too, with their whole relationship with Noah. But Latin America is kind of an untapped market for them, so it's very exciting to see them expanding down there. Just a few more pieces of WWE news. Recently there was a lawsuit, well, not recently, it's been happening for the last few years, but there's been a lawsuit against WWE about, not providing adequate protection to superstars in regards to concussions. And it's kind of like a mass lawsuit. And the judge threw it out. The judge threw it out completely. He was like, this is stupid. They haven't done anything wrong. The WWE are protected. They know what they're doing, legally speaking. And from what I can gather, this is just some shyster lawyer. Apparently he's done this to NFL guys as well. This is some shyster lawyer who comes in and he promises that he can get them a payout because WWE were negligent with them, or the NFL were negligent with them. And he milks them for all their legal fees, and then nothing ever comes of it. So, that sucks. Because some of these older wrestlers, some of these guys aren't in the best situation. And then you're coming in and taking advantage of them like this. That pisses me off, because these are guys that have legendary status. And yes, WWE could have taken better care of their talent in the past. Not necessarily, I mean, look, the concussions and things like it, it's a physical sport. There's always the risk. And the people, I believe in individual responsibility. And these performers take that risk on themselves. They know this isn't that way. They know that they could get in there and get hurt. They know that they could do damage. But really what WWE did a poor job of in the past was just the professionals. Like the wrestlers would go out and drink, and they would go out and party, and they were all on the road, and they were living that rock star life. Whereas now they live the athlete life. They treat them as athletes, and the superstars today treat themselves as athletes, and they have money managers and all that sort of stuff. And WWE now is this corporate entity. They provide advice for their talent on all these situations, and that's something that they didn't do in the past. That it's really good that they're doing it now. It's really good that they've grown as a business, and I would like to see them reach out more to some of these veterans that aren't in the best place. And they have been doing that. They do things like helping former stars go to university and all this sort of stuff. So WWE are doing a good job, but I definitely feel for some of these older guys who were around when the business was in a very different state, and they aren't taken care of, and they never were taught how to take care of themselves, and they live this rock star life, and it can get kind of sad. We've seen things like the resurrection of Jake the Snake, right? Jake the Snake was in a terrible place. DDP's doing more work than WWE with some of these guys, but DDP this week announced that he and Raven are doing a YouTube series that I think it's a YouTube series. They're doing a video series though, where DDP's going to try to help Raven get healthy, which makes me really happy. Raven was one of my favorites. Dude is like a genius level intellect. He's like a genius level IQ. When you hear him talk, when you hear him put things together, Raven is fantastic. And he's one of those guys that he's had those issues with addiction, which a lot of genius level people will have. They struggle with social interaction and what have you. Raven's one of my favorites, and I'm really happy that DDP's helping him out. I hope it works out. Because Raven's very cynical, too. Raven is very cynical, so I don't know how much DDP is going to be able to work with him, because a lot of DDP stuff is, the mindset. And I don't know. I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'll definitely be tuning into that one. So anyway, the judge threw out the concussion lawsuit, and, fuck that lawyer, basically, because he's just milking ex-superstars for their money, and that sucks. Rey Mysterio has signed a 2-year deal with the WWE. We talked about this last week. I'm not going to give myself fake news on this one, because last week Rey Mysterio himself was saying, nothing's signed yet. It's probably not going to happen for a while. Like we said, it looked like he was going to do a stable with the Lucha Brothers, but now the Lucha Brothers aren't available. So they're committed to MLW through 2019. But Rey Mysterio has gone ahead and signed anyway. CJ on yesterday's View from the WWE Universe was contemplating whether he'll get teamed up with Lucha House Party. I sure as hell hope not. I'd rather see him just have another singles run and then retire, but, we'll see what happens. Would love to hear what you guys think. What do you think Rey Mysterio is going to do? Should he lead a stable? Should he be a heel instead of a face this time around? Very interested to know what you guys think. His son, Dominic, remember Dominic from the angle with Eddie, like way back? Yeah, he's of legal age now and is training. If that doesn't make you feel old, I don't know what does. But he is training with Lance Storm at the Lance Storm Academy. My mate Keegan Brettle is actually, from the Aussie Grap show. I've got an interview with him that I've recorded that's going to be coming up. I can't tell you when. It's coming up soon, though. I'll put it on one of the episodes. And he's training at the Lance Storm Academy with Dominic, apparently. How crazy is that? We're going to get Rey Mysterio's son soon. I assume he'll go straight to the Performance Center. I can't imagine he won't. William Regal was at PWG's Battle of Los Angeles last week. Now, according to Jeff Cobb, he had a chat with William Regal, and the dirt sheets are all reporting that WWE are now very interested in signing big man Brody King. So that's not surprising. That's not surprising at all. Brody King would fit right in on NXT. He would fit right into WWE programming. He looks like someone who WWE would be interested in, so I'm not surprised to hear that, and good for him. Good for him. Brody King does really good work. Definitely check out his stuff in PWG. He's in MLW. As I said, he has a match with PCO next week on MLW Fusion. Brody King is definitely one to watch, and it looks like he may be going to NXT soon if the rumors are correct. Meanwhile, speaking of Jeff Cobb, he won the Battle of Los Angeles, beating Bandito and Shingo in the final last weekend. Our Aussies, Adam Brooks, was eliminated in the first round. Jonah Rock and Robbie Eagles both made it to the second round, winning their initial matches by submission, but were eliminated in the second round. They still did a fantastic job representing the country, and they impressed a lot of people. Very exciting to see if anything else comes of that. Obviously, there are PWG 3. They get booked at PWG quite a bit, so keep an eye on PWG to see Adam Brooks, to see Robbie Eagles, to see Jonah Rock, and get out to your local shows. If you listen to our Friday show, Aussie Graps, you will hear interviews with all the best Australian grapplers, and I'll give you a rundown of what's happening this weekend so you know where the shows are so you can get out and check them out. In other news, the NWA title is going to be defended at a Ring of Honor taping. So we're going to get an NWA World's Championship match on Ring of Honor television. Cody Rhodes defending his first time ever defending as the champion against Willie Mack. I thought the first match would be the anniversary show, but I guess they wanted to get one defense under his belt before he has the rematch, which, it makes sense. How Willie Mack earned this shot, I'm not sure. Willie Mack doesn't wrestle with Ring of Honor, so it's pretty curious, but it'll be a good match. Willie Mack is fantastic. Willie Mack is one of those guys who's super underrated. He doesn't get booked much outside. Like, he sort of works the California area, and he does the Lucha Underground stuff, which is really cool, but Willie Mack, he's a guy that should be a lot bigger than he is, and I'm not sure why. Like, I mean, we're not privy to everything that goes on backstage, so, maybe he's a dick. I don't know. But all I know is Willie Mack, I really enjoy his work, so this is going to be a good match. Willie Mack versus Cody Rhodes on Ring of Honor TV. That's going to take place at the next tapings. It's going to be his first NWA World's Heavyweight Championship defense. And then in his second defense, presuming he beats Willie Mack, which we're going to presume he will, his second defense will come at the 70th anniversary in Nashville. As we mentioned last week, Nick Aldis defeated Doug Williams over in the UK, so he got the right to go back for the rematch against Cody Rhodes. So we got Nick Aldis, Cody Rhodes 2, and this week it was announced that Tony Schiavone will call the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship match live on Fight TV at that 70th anniversary show. I'm not sure if Schiavone's going to call the whole show, but he's definitely calling the main event, and that's going to feel, like I said, Tony Schiavone gives you that throwback feel, you know? Makes you feel like you're a kid again watching old school wrestling, so very excited to see that. Another bigger match that's been announced recently, Kenny Omega, who just had a match at All In against Pentagon, is going to face the other Lucha brother. He's having a match against Fenix that's going to take place at Northeast Wrestling on November 9th in New York. This is the first Kenny Omega appearance in the US that's not tied to New Japan, that's not tied to Ring of Honor in a very long time. So Kenny Omega doesn't do these very often, and he's going to have a one-on-one match with Fenix. That's going to be a hell of a match. I don't know if it's going to stream anywhere. I have no idea. I assume we'll find it at some point. I'll let you know when it drops, because I'm sure this is going to be a match of the year contender. Kenny Omega versus Fenix. Holy crap, that's amazing. Two more things to talk about. Three. Abyss was announced for the Impact Hall of Fame. That it's going to take place on Bound for Glory weekend. Again, if you listen to tomorrow's Impact Zone podcast, we'll talk about that more then. But the biggest news for me this week is Shimmer have launched a streaming service. I no longer have to acquire, I'm doing that with finger quotes, I no longer have to acquire Shimmer shows because they've got a streaming service now, so $9.99 a month, and you can watch all the Shimmer back catalog. It's available at streamshimmer.com. Link will be in the show notes, just $9.99 US, and you get Shimmer every month straight to your computer, laptop, iPhone, Roku, Fire, Amazon Fire, whatever it is you use to watch the women's wrestling. Stardom and Shimmer are the best, in my opinion. They're right up there, and I'm very excited to get more Shimmer into my life. Another women's promotion that I'm a huge fan of is Rise. I've talked about Rise a few times on this show, and Rise have made a baffling decision this week, and I'm going to leave us on this one. This is very curious. David Arquette, the former WCW World Champion, the actor David Arquette, who we know has been training and has returned to the professional wrestling ring, he's taking place in the Rise seminar coming up. So Rise, what they do is they hold their shows at night, and during the day they have a seminar, and everyone who participates in the seminar, all the girls who come along and pay to be in the seminar and participate in the seminar, the training seminar, they get added to the prospective talent pool for Rise. So by taking part in this seminar, David Arquette makes himself eligible to perform on Rise shows. Rise is a women's wrestling promotion. I have no idea what's going on here. I assume they're going to run some kind of angle, but I'm very curious. Something to pay attention to over the coming month is David Arquette at Rise. Very strange. But that does it for this week in wrestling news. That does it for All The Wrest. Thank you so much for joining me. As I've mentioned a few times now, we do a bunch of other shows here at the B Plus Podcast, so if you're listening to this one and you're not subscribed, you want to hit that subscribe button on iTunes, hit that subscribe button on Podbean, hit that subscribe button on Pocket Casts, wherever you're listening. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button, leave us a comment, say hi, let us know. We love to hear from you guys. We love to hear what you think about the shows, what you think about our opinions. Let's get into arguments on Twitter. You can find me at the GregUnchained on Instagram, at GregUnchained on Twitter, at the B Plus Wrestler on Twitter, because wrestling wouldn't fit the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, you name it, we're there, taking over the world. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you feel so inclined, and as always, thank you ever so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag!
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy! Goodbye and good night! Hold two! Arm bar!
This is the worst town I've ever been in. It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy! Hold three! The moss covered!